Imagine walking into a clinic just because you sprained your ankle on a morning run.
Right. Totally normal, everyday thing.
Yeah, exactly. So the doctor wraps it up,
Yeah.
tells you to stay off it, standard advice. But just before you leave, they hand you a highly tailored preventative treatment plan for a severe cardiac event.
A heart issue that you had absolutely no idea you were even developing.
Exactly. I mean, you feel perfectly fine. Your heart rate is normal. You run every day. But a machine looked at your file, correlated like thousands of invisible data points, and effectively saw the future.
It's wild. Welcome to the era of predictive medicine.
It really is wild. And that's our mission for this deep dive today. For you listening right now, someone who, wants to stay informed, but maybe doesn't have the time to read every single technical bulletin that drops, we're doing the heavy lifting.
Right, because there's so much noise out there.
So much noise. So we are analyzing this fascinating snapshot of our digital landscape from an AI news digest published on April 19th, 2026. Our goal is to just cut through the buzzwords. We're looking at 4 distinct areas where AI is fundamentally changing the human experience. We're talking our physical health, our entertainment, our personal privacy, and, well, our daily paychecks.
Yeah, and what stands out in this specific digest is a very clear overarching trajectory. We have officially moved past the era where AI was just an automation engine.
Like writing a basic email or organizing a spreadsheet.
Exactly. The underlying pattern across all 4 of these areas is a shift toward what we might call predictive collaboration.
Predictive collaboration.
Right. So the systems are no longer just executing our commands. They are actively anticipating needs and forecasting outcomes alongside human operators.
Okay, predictive collaboration. Let's look at exactly how that works in our first area, which is the physical body.
Yeah, let's get into the medical side.
The digest highlights this major development from a leading tech company. They are rolling out a new AI tool designed to predict patient outcomes, and it's apparently doing so with remarkable accuracy.
Yes, and the mechanism behind this is what makes it so powerful. I mean, to really understand how it works, you have to move away from the idea of a machine just reading a chart.
Like scanning text for keywords.
Exactly, it's not doing that. It is much closer to a highly advanced weather forecasting model.
Oh, interesting. Like predicting a storm.
Yeah. A meteorologist doesn't just look at a cloud and guess if it will rain, right?
Yeah.
The model tracks atmospheric pressure drops, wind vectors, humidity spikes across millions of data points simultaneously to map a trajectory.
Gotcha.
This medical AI is doing the exact same thing, but with human biology.
So it's looking at like comprehensive patient histories, treatment protocols, specific outcomes, and finding these invisible correlations.
Precisely. So it might correlate the dosage of a specific blood thinner with a patient's geographic ZIP code.
Wait, ZIP code, why would that matter?
Well, it might indicate their access to physical therapy, right? And it pairs that with minor, seemingly insignificant fluctuations in their blood pressure after they were discharged. A human doctor simply cannot hold that many variables in their working memory at once. It's impossible. The AI synthesizes these massive data sets to forecast where a patient is heading.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here, though.
Sure, go for it.
Predictive models are inherently probabilistic.
Right.
I mean, they deal in likelihoods, not absolute certainties.
Yes, that is 100% correct.
So if this system flags me as a high risk for some severe medical event based on a pattern match, but I'm like a statistical outlier and I'm actually completely healthy.
You're worried about false positives.
Exactly. Aren't we risking a massive surge in false positives? We could be looking at a scenario where people are subjected to totally unnecessary stress, invasive tests, and we just end up draining hospital resources instead of saving them.
That is the exact critical vulnerability researchers focus on, and it's why the collaboration part of predictive collaboration is completely non-negotiable.
Okay, so the doctor's still the boss.
Right. The AI is not an autonomous diagnostician. It is basically a triage and augmentation tool.
So it's giving them a heads up.
Yeah, when it flags a patient, it doesn't automatically, schedule a surgery. It provides the attending physician with a probabilistic risk score and highlights the specific variables that led to that conclusion.
Like, hey, doc, look at the blood pressure and the ZIP code.
Exactly. The physician then applies their clinical judgment, their physical examination of the patient, and their contextual understanding to either validate or dismiss the machine's forecast.
Got it. So it gives the doctor a targeted place to look, rather than forcing them to search the entire haystack.
Precisely. And the digest specifically calls out reducing hospital readmissions as a primary victory for this tool.
Which is huge, right?
Oh, the economic impact of that cannot be overstated. A hospital readmission is effectively a systemic failure.
Because they didn't fix the problem the first time around.
Right. So by identifying which patients are statistically most likely to relapse after discharge, hospitals can allocate targeted outpatient resources.
Like sending a nurse for a home visit.
Exactly, to prevent the crisis before it happens. Lowering readmission rates fundamentally alters the massive economic strain on global healthcare systems. A bed that isn't occupied by a readmitted patient is a bed available for someone else.
Makes total sense. So we've seen how these models can map the complex biological patterns of our health. But the digest then makes a really fascinating transition.
Yeah, this next part is super interesting.
What happens when we take that exact same architectural capability ingesting massive data sets to find hidden vectors and trajectories and point it at human emotion?
Right, we move from the hard, objective science of biology to the highly subjective art of storytelling.
Hollywood. The digest jumps into the entertainment sector, sharing this story of a major film studio using a new AI tool to actively streamline their scriptwriting process.
Which is a very controversial topic, right?
Oh, extremely. So the AI analyzed this massive corpus of past successful scripts to actively suggest plot twists, character arc developments, and even adjust dialogue pacing.
And again, the mechanism here is crucial to understand. The AI doesn't understand the concept of a heartbreak, right? Or a triumphant victory. It doesn't have a soul.
Right, it's just math.
Exactly. What it does is natural language processing combined with sentiment analysis to track narrative tension. It maps a script on a literal timeline.
Wait, how does that work practically?
Well, it knows that in, say, 80% of successful thrillers, the protagonist experiences a severe drop in emotional valence, like a major defeat, right around minute 45.
The classic low point of the movie.
Yes. If a new script lacks that structural tension, the AI flags the weakness.
Okay, but here's my issue with that. If the training data is purely historical, if it's only looking at what has made audiences buy tickets in the past, aren't we just locking ourselves into a closed loop of recycled tropes?
I hear you.
I mean, mechanically, if it only knows what has worked before, where does an actually novel idea come from?
Yeah.
This just sounds like a recipe for getting the exact same superhero movie remixed 1,000 times.
That is the most aggressive and honestly valid critique of AI in creative fields. If you remove the human from the loop, yes, you get perfectly paced, structurally flawless, entirely hollow content.
Just paint-by-numbers movies.
Exactly. But the digest highlights a specific director who was initially deeply skeptical of this tool, precisely for the reasons you just mentioned.
Oh, really? But they changed their mind.
Yeah, they eventually adopted it as a core part of their process.
What changed their mind? Because if the machine is just telling you the exact page to insert an emotional climax, you are still just painting by numbers.
Well, what changed their mind was realizing that the AI isn't there to write the soul of the film. It's there to build the scaffolding.
The scaffolding. Okay.
Yeah. One of the hardest parts of writing is structural pacing. The AI can instantly generate 10 different structural variations of a scene. 9 of them might be cliché garbage.
Right. Total formulaic trash.
But the machine operates in a high-dimensional space, meaning it can find unexpected clusters of concepts.
What does that mean for a script, though?
It might suggest that the pacing of a romantic comedy scene perfectly aligns with the tension buildup of a horror movie.
Oh, wow.
Right. It suggests a hybrid structure a human wouldn't naturally synthesize.
That's actually really interesting. So it's pulling structural architecture from completely unrelated genres because it maps them mathematically rather than emotionally.
Exactly. It eliminates the terror of the blank page. The AI provides the raw material and the structural architecture, but the human writer still has to inject the subtext, the lived experience, and the original spark.
So it's literally a creative sparring partner.
Yes. The director realized that having a machine optimize the pacing actually freed up their cognitive load. They could focus entirely on the emotional depth of the performances instead of worrying if Act 2 was dragging.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's a structural collaborator. But this brings us to a very stark contrast in today's deep dive.
Yeah, things take a bit of a turn here.
It's fascinating when an AI reverse engineers the structural beats of a movie script. And it is miraculous when it reverse engineers our medical records with our explicit consent to keep us alive. But that exact same superpower massive data collection and pattern recognition gets incredibly uncomfortable when the script it's reverse engineering is your private life.
This is the shadow side of the predictive era, and it is entirely unavoidable if we want these tools to function.
Right. So the digest brings in a recent report from a prominent think tank focusing squarely on the ethical dimensions of all this.
They are throwing up a massive caution flag.
Absolutely massive. The report scrutinizes how these highly sophisticated systems collect and analyze personal data, calling for aggressive regulations and transparency to uphold basic human rights.
It's a huge concern.
For you, the listener, think about it like this. It's like inviting a brilliant assistant into your house. They organize your calendar, they anticipate your needs, they make your life effortlessly easy.
Sounds great so far.
Right. But then you realize they are silently tracking every single conversation you have, every micro-expression everywhere you go, and cross-referencing it with everyone you know.
It is a chilling reality. What the think tank report is identifying is the core paradox of the AI revolution.
The paradox being that we want the benefits, but not the surveillance.
Exactly. The very architecture that makes AI so incredibly useful is the exact same architecture that fundamentally threatens our privacy.
Because it needs the data to make the predictions in the first place.
Yeah.
But wait, let me push back a little. We've had targeted advertising and data tracking for decades.
It's true, yeah.
How is what this think tank is warning about in 2026 fundamentally different from, like, a browser tracking my shoe purchases back in 2015?
The difference is the leap from tracking discrete digital clicks to predicting comprehensive behavioral trajectories through ambient intelligence.
Ambient intelligence. That sounds creepy.
It is. We aren't just talking about your search history anymore. We are talking about biometric data from your smartwatch, navigational telemetry from your car, voice patterns picked up by smart home devices, and constant location tracking.
So it's literally everywhere.
Yes. The AI needs this continuous high-fidelity stream of behavioral telemetry to maintain its predictive accuracy. It isn't just trying to sell you shoes anymore. It is mapping your psychological state to predict what you will do next.
Okay, that is terrifying. And the think tank is arguing that true anonymization of this data is becoming impossible, right?
That is the crucial technical point. People think, oh, my name isn't on the data, I'm safe.
Right, it's just anonymous data points.
But when you aggregate enough seemingly disparate data points, your daily commute, your heart rate at 3 p.m., and the cadence of your text messages de-anonymizing you becomes trivial for a sophisticated model.
Because no one else has that exact specific pattern.
Precisely. The paradox is that to make AI highly personalized and useful, it requires deeply personal data.
So where does this leave us? I mean, the think tank is demanding robust regulatory frameworks and transparency, but if the companies pull back on data collection, don't the models just get worse?
Yes, and that is the tightrope we are walking. The report stresses that without clear guardrails, public trust will inevitably collapse.
If trust collapses.
If public trust collapses, the entire ecosystem stalls. If people suddenly refuse to wear their smartwatches or share their medical histories out of fear of mass surveillance, those predictive healthcare innovations we just marveled at will starve.
They won't have the fuel they need to work.
Right. The ethical framework isn't just some philosophical nicety. It is the critical infrastructure required for any of these advancements to function in society.
We really have to figure out how to maintain the brilliant assistant without letting them build a psychological profile of our deepest secrets.
It is an incredibly delicate balance.
And the digest makes it very clear that this tension isn't just happening in government halls or abstract think tanks. It is playing out right now, Monday morning, at your desk.
Oh, absolutely. The workplace is where these macroeconomic trends hit the individual on a deeply personal, daily level.
So for the final section of the digest, they unpack a new study on the future of work. It points out that AI is aggressively automating routine tasks, which is, boosting overall company productivity.
And creating new job categories, too.
Right. The theory is that this allows employees to focus on more strategic, high-level creative work. But the massive caveat in the report is that this transition requires, and I'm quoting here, significant upskilling and adaptation from the workforce.
This is what the source material refers to as a double-edged sword. We are witnessing a permanent shift in the nature of human labor, moving from execution to strategy.
Okay, I need a concrete example of this.
See what I mean?
Because, upskilling often just sounds like a corporate euphemism for doing two jobs.
Right, exactly.
If I am a financial analyst, and my entire job for the last 5 years was building quarterly tax reports, and the AI can now generate that report flawlessly in 3 seconds, I'm not suddenly going to the beach.
Sadly, no.
So what am I actually doing with the other 39 hours of my week?
You are shifting from being a producer of outputs to an auditor and manager of AI systems. You are no longer crunching the tax brackets yourself.
Okay.
Instead, you are designing the complex prompts that instruct the AI. You're debating the AI about the ethical or legal loopholes in international tax law.
Oh, wow. So I'm verifying its work.
Yes, you are cross-referencing its outputs against shifting geopolitical events that the model might not fully contextualize yet.
So my value to the company is no longer my ability to manually execute the spreadsheet.
Exactly.
My value is my ability to manage the machine executing the spreadsheet and knowing when the machine is, like, hallucinating or missing strategic context.
Precisely. For centuries, a massive portion of human work was deterministic. You followed a set of instructions to produce a predictable result.
Like an assembly line, whether it's physical or digital.
Right. AI has effectively commoditized deterministic execution. The human role must now rely on probabilistic management, emotional intelligence, and complex problem solving.
But that implies that the tools you are managing are static. And we know they aren't. They're updating constantly.
They change week to week.
Which makes this requirement for continuous learning sound completely exhausting.
It is the heavy burden on the other side of the blade. Adapting to AI in the workplace is no longer a milestone. It isn't a weekend seminar you take to get a certificate so you can update your resume.
You can't just check a box and be done.
No. Because the models iterate so rapidly, continuous learning has to become a permanent state of being. You effectively have to learn how to learn constantly just to maintain your current baseline of value.
Just to keep your job.
Exactly.
Let's take a step back and look at the whole picture we've painted today from this 2026 Digest. We have covered incredible ground, and it's kind of amazing to see the underlying architecture connecting all of this.
It really is all connected.
Whether it's a multi-dimensional model forecasting a hospital readmission before a patient even feels sick, or an algorithm mapping narrative tension to fix a movie script.
Or a think tank desperately trying to navigate the mass surveillance required to make these models work.
Right. Or the reality that we all have to permanently shift from executing tasks to managing machine strategies. AI is acting as an unprecedented amplifier for human capability.
It amplifies whatever we point it at. It accelerates both our greatest medical innovations and our deepest societal vulnerabilities regarding privacy and labor.
It all comes back to that core idea of predictive collaboration. The machine forecasts the trajectory, but the human still has to make the decision. We still have to hold the steering wheel.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you, the listener, for taking the time to get informed and curious with us today. Navigating this landscape isn't easy, but understanding the actual mechanics of how these systems operate makes the future a lot less intimidating.
I couldn't agree more. Understanding the why and the how is the best defense against the overwhelm of the what.
Beautifully said.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder on your own, building directly on our discussion about the workplace.
Let's hear it.
We established that to survive in this new economy, human workers must commit to a permanent state of continuous learning.
Right, the exhausting treadmill.
But considering that AI itself is also continuously learning and upgrading its own capabilities at an exponential rate, are we simply trapping ourselves in an endless, exhausting race we mathematically cannot win?
Oh, wow.
Or will we soon reach a tipping point where the AI becomes so advanced that it actually has to step in and teach us how to keep up with it?
A machine that optimizes our ability to manage the machine. It is a wild thought to end on. Keep asking questions, keep looking past the buzzwords, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.